Hello and welcome to Orbital Bombardment's first ever video interview. I'm joined today by Hawk's Mr. Dave Lewis.
Hi.
So,
Hi.
hello Dave, how are you?
Hello, I'm good. It's been a long day, but I'm feeling still honest and awake.
It's been a long day. We've just come off the back of a large battle royale, which will be out in the future. So keep your eyes peeled for that. So the con season is over now.
Yep, yeah, it's all done with, apart from Spiel and Crisis, which are the last two. Spiel's a really big one, so that's still to come. Although I'm not going because I'm getting married then, so that's me out.
Congratulations.
It's me out of the picture for the last two cons of the year. But we're pretty much done with them almost. Gen Con was big and busy as usual.
Yeah, excellent. All right, well, let's do some DropFleet first, in which case.
Sure.
So, Dave, lots of news with DropFleet.
Yep.
Gen Con. Can you tell us a little bit more about the game idea and how it's going to tie into the current mechanics and the universe of Dropzone Commander?
Yeah. Okay. So orbital combat game for one. So that's important. The whole game's designed around orbital combat. So your board is a piece of planet. Think of it as maybe the size of a big European country like Spain, something like that. That's a 4x4 table. So you've got cities to drop things into. You've got cities to bombard.
Yeah.
You've got stuff on the ground shooting up at things in orbit. You've got orbital layers, high orbit, low orbit, atmosphere. Atmosphere is a bit like being underwater in submarine combat, so you can't fly through it very easily, and it changes a lot of things, and only certain ships can go in atmosphere, and the big ones die if they orbitally decay, if they lose their engines, and they just burn up when they crash. So that's part of the fun, and you can occasionally nuke the site from orbit, very rarely, but it does happen. Only way to be sure, and everyone wants to see that every now and again.
Every now and again, epic
so that's
game
in it.
moments. Sure.
Exactly, yeah. So there's epic game movement. Obviously, the scale is on a hugely different level to Dropzone because one cruiser is maybe 7 meters long in 10 mil scale. So you're playing with vast, huge beasts of ships that are killing each other and firing torpedoes and bombers, fighters. They're all in it as well. Which we're all done with the mechanics for those now, which is awesome.
Excellent. What prompted the design of DropFleet?
Well, I think because me and Andy Chambers, he really wanted to do another spaceship game, and we got talking, having done Gothic, and he's not done a spaceship game since, really. So he wanted to do another one, and we both sat talking what we would do. And in the Dropzone universe, it's all about these invasions of planets, really. It's not really about sort of fleet combat. Kind of the space battle of Jutland is something that's been done before by lots of other people, and I didn't want to do something that was just, it's been done well by other people, and there's no need to tread on that and no need to go there. So we wanted to create something truly different to all other space combat games, which is orbital combat.
Yeah.
And
it is different, for sure.
It changes a lot of things about the game, and it means you don't have sort of planetary bodies as scenery per se, because the movement speeds are very different. The way that affects gameplay is very different, and it really does make it a very different sort of game.
Excellent. How many models can we be expecting per fleet?
And typical fleet is you probably spend-wise, I guess, it'd be slightly lower than Dropzone. You're probably looking at 1 or 2 battleships, or maybe 1 dreadnought, depending on how you go. Between sort of 5 and 8 cruisers, and between maybe 6 and 12 frigates or destroyers or corvettes, small ships. Yeah. It really depends how you weight that, but obviously you can go light or you can go heavy depending on how you write your list.
So, one of the most exciting things about DropFleet, in my opinion at any rate, is the news of Kickstarter. What prompted Hawk to do a Kickstarter for DropFleet?
Well, in a word, it's plastics, really, because when we launched Dropzone, Hawk was a lot smaller back then, and it was just me, and I was doing all of it. It was all family funded, and we had very, very small budget.
Sure.
And it's easier to get resin into production from a cost standpoint, but very expensive to make it per unit. So you have to charge a lot per unit, and you can't get away from that. So the original Dropzone starter sets were too expensive, and I knew they were too expensive when we launched them, and there was nothing we could do about it. We couldn't make them any cheaper.
Yeah.
And ultimately, it's not good for the players because the starter sets are expensive, which means you get less people into the game. And it took us 2.5 years of running Dropzone to kind of save up and build up to the point where we could do plastics. And now we have a full range of plastic starter sets, and that's much better. we've seen more players and more uptake, and it's much easier for people to play the game.
Yeah.
Start, 35 quid starter set, bang, you're in, which
Very
is
low entry value.
yeah, exactly. Which is we want to do that with Dropfleet, but ultimately it costs a lot of money to tool plastics. You're looking at 20 grand upwards per race to tool them, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
So to do that, you can go through traditional funding models or Kickstarter, but a lot of our competitors are using it, and we've not done one before, so we think it's time for us to do a Kickstarter.
Okay.
It's going to be more of what I'd call a real Kickstarter, in that
Okay, sure.
the Kickstarter is largely for tooling the plastics. That's what it's about.
Yeah.
We won't be selling the entire range on Kickstarter. That's important to us because most of our stock goes through retailers, and we want it to remain that way. So really that, it's going to be starter sets, it's going to be special stuff that you can only get on the Kickstarter that will never go to retail.
Okay.
That's Kickstarter exclusive. Obviously you'll get product early,
Yeah.
Stuff like that, which is traditional with Kickstarter. But it has a purpose. There is a real reason for it to be there. And then, when we're in plastics with all the fleets from day one, which is the aim, when we release it to full retail, it will be better for everybody involved, the players, the retailers, us. If we can go to plastics, then everybody wins, essentially, which is the plan.
No, that's great. I will be honest with you, I was one of the skeptics. Having heard your explanation, though, it does seem to make a lot more sense for everyone. If everybody can keep the costs down and people who know they want to play the game to begin with,
Yeah,
then Kickstarter seems like to be
exactly.
good. How many models, or what kind of models or products will we be getting in the Kickstarter?
The Kickstarter will be, actually, if you go, it depends on how you write your list in the end, but you can build most of your fleet from plastics, essentially, because with Dropzone, most of your army ends up being resin with the core in plastic. With Dropfleet, a lot of the ships will be plastic, because there'll be cruiser sprues, which will be very flexible, and will build lots of different ships, because this is the first time we've designed a range for plastic from day one, because Dropzone was designed for resin originally and then modded to plastic later, which is fine, and they worked okay.
Yeah.
But if you design for plastic from the beginning, you can utilise all the advantages of the process and have extra components and all sorts of stuff on that sprue that you couldn't do in resin because it's very expensive per part.
Sure.
So it's good for flexibility.
No, for sure. Is it a starter set that we're looking at in the Kickstarter?
There'll
Just a
be
starter set,
there'll be a
okay.
starter set. There'll be the plan is the 2-player and single-player fleets as well.
Yeah.
And certain ones will unlock as it goes along, because we want to unlock stuff rather than have everything there right from the start.
Some
And
stretch
from
goals.
it means our initial target to get the game funded is lower, which is good for everyone because everyone wants product at the end of the day.
That's true.
And then exactly. And then as it goes, stuff will unlock as it works its way along, like most Kickstarters do, really.
Okay.
There'll be some scenery on there. There'll be tokens. There'll be templates. There'll be special ships that you can only get on the Kickstarter. We're still finalising one or two details, so a few things might change, but there'll be lots on there. Obviously, books. The rule book. There'll only be one book on there. There's going to be a special high backer level for a beta test day, which is going to be kind of a pre-launch party in a way. But
Oh, that's exciting.
again, we're yet to sort that out. But those backers will get a special kind of printed beta test copy.
Yeah.
It's actually important for us to get those players who are the most keen to get them rules before, early physical copy, so that it can't just be disseminated everywhere.
No, that's a
Then they
great
can,
idea.
come and be involved in beta testing, because obviously we're keen to talk to players, and that obviously includes you guys anyway, because we do a lot of playtesting with you anyway. But but we've done more playtesting on Dropfleet than we've done on anything else by a long way, because it's been very tricky to get it all right, and it's got to be right from the launch.
Okay. When can we expect the Kickstarter to go live, and when can we expect to get our greedy little hands on all the goodies?
All right. The plan is for it to go live at the end of October. It might be early November, but we're aiming for late October. For delivery around May, I would say at the moment. It's quite a short delivery time.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Because to be honest, the other difference here is, as far as Kickstarters go, we've looked at a lot of them, and the ones that have been very late, and that can't be us, because I don't want to deal with that myself morally, all sorts of reasons. Like if I state a delivery time, that's what we're going to aim for, unless the factory burns down or something horrible like that.
Yeah.
But also, we've done all of this before. We've done plastic sprues before. We've also, the rules are nearly all the way done. You're just talking about fleet balancing and a few tweaks at this point. Yeah, we've spent 2 years on this rule set. So it's done. We don't have to do it once. You know, we funded the Kickstarter. Yay! Now we've got to write a game, which happens a lot, and that's why some of them end up being so late, because you know it took us 2 years to get this game right. So now it is right. We can do the Kickstarter. We know what our lead times are. It's all manufactured in the UK, so there's no slow boat from China stuff going on. So we know how long it will take to tool stuff up. And you know, mainly the bulk of the work left is in the fluff for the book. And some of the last ships that still need designing, which some of the resin ones have got very short lead times because they go straight from, you know, CAD to 3D print to resin in about a month. Those ones will be, I'll be working on those. Probably the last ones will get done around Christmas time after the Kickstarter's finished, but those will be ones that you don't get on the Kickstarter that will go straight to retail.
Okay.
So we can be ready for launch later on.
Excellent.
But yeah, and it's mainly because it's tried and tested for us. We're not trying anything that we've not done before when it comes to manufacture, which is usually where the stumbling points are, and the rules.
It's just the case that you need the money in order to make it for everyone.
Yeah, it's just literally needing money so we can push the button on it, really. That's it. That's what it comes down to.
Oh, that's great. Well, I think it's a good time to move on to Dropzone Commander, being our main bread and butter at the moment for everybody.
Yep.
All of OB really enjoyed the new infantry and some of the new units as well. In your opinion, has the infantry been as received as you would have liked to have been?
I think so, yeah. I think people in general have been happy with them. I mean, I wanted to make infantry more of a thing when it comes to engaging with the rest of the board, because they engage with each other a lot, but a lot of the time they don't go to the walls and shoot, and that was a big part of this release. Was a lot of them are very shooty infantry, like the heavy hazard suits, which are just go to the wall and shoot your rail guns at people, which is important for the game, and it means then you've got things that shoot at infantry. Things like flame units suddenly become a lot more important. You have to deal with them.
Yeah.
You know, there are a few really interesting ones to playtest, like the Medusa was a real different. We've not written rules for a unit even remotely like the Medusa before, but she's a special model and needed special rules, and I'm very happy.
She's going to kick up hell, I'm sure.
She's going to kick up hell, yeah. People are going to hate on her, but if you play against the Medusa, number one tip from the rules writer is take a few damage points off as quickly as you can. With full 10 DP, she's horrendously scary, but you just take 2 or 3 of those hits away and suddenly energy 13 focus drops to energy 11, and suddenly it's not quite as horrible. So take some DP off.
Definitely.
Use all your little machine guns that you don't use very often. Use them, chip away, hurt her. She can replenish with the Triton X, so try and kill that as well. But she costs a lot of points and she's powerful. So
she's very good. And the top tip from me, use flame to get rid of her.
Oh, flame murderizes Medusas completely, totally murderizes her, because it ignores all her wonderful bonuses and she just dies
very quickly.
Very, very quickly to flame units. Yeah, she has weaknesses. She can be killed.
That's it, and that's what's good about the new wave. They've been very balanced. All of the units across the board have had more or less, apart from perhaps the Ronin, which have kicked up a bit of
the Ronin. We've dealt with that though.
Yes.
The Ronin. Or we're in the process of dealing with it, but it's, you know, generally the way these things pan out is we play test our own stuff. We, you know, often do stuff with you guys before we post any rules.
Yes.
Then at that point they've already been play tested fairly extensively in house, and then people will usually react in various ways to anything that's off kilter, anything that's a bit unusual. You'll get, oh my god, this is broken, and 1 or 2 people will say that on day 2 before they've played any games. We always never knee-jerk at that. We know we've play tested them, we leave it for a while. If people keep saying the same thing, then we know we've got a problem, and then we'll change it. And
much like the Ferrum.
Yeah, the Ferrum was one of those. It was a very difficult unit to write rules for. The Ferrum was a nightmare. And the Ronin, the Ferrum, you're supposed to hate the Ferrum. The Ferrum is fine. It can be dealt with. It's fine.
No, it is fine.
Yeah, it's good. It's a lot of points. It's a lot of points for a model, and it should kick ass. Otherwise, why spend the points?
Well, that's it.
You know.
So these models are going to be in Conquest Phase 2.
Yep.
When can we expect to see it?
Well, I'm going to be writing Phase 2, the background side of it anyway, probably over Christmas.
So not going to be this year.
Yeah, it's not going to be this year. And I'm still doing all the design for all the vehicles and now all the ships for DropFleet as well. So it's been a it's not like I've not pushed myself before, but now I've got 2 games to be worked on at the same time.
That's true.
The infantry, actually, I didn't sculpt the infantry this time, and that freed me up to work on the ships for Dropfleet. So we've been planning this so that we'd have your continual releases for Dropzone, which is important because Dropzone is the game for us at the moment. And when Dropfleet comes out, there'll be Dropzone and Dropfleet, but one won't be neglected in flavour of the other, and that's really important to me and to Hulk as a whole, to keep both games just as interesting and just as engaging all the time. But it does mean that I've had to delay certain things, and phase 2 was one of them because I really wanted it out by November. But also the hardback there's been a lot of work has gone into that book.
And for those of you who haven't seen it, it's gorgeous. If you can pick one up, it's my advice.
Yeah, Patrice spent 4 or 5 months working on the artwork for that book, and
I've seen him during that period, and he's a shadow of the man he once was.
He's had the full Hulk experience for the first time in terms of being, he hasn't got much hair because he's mainly shaved off, but what there is probably going a little greyer, and
his eyebrows,
his eyebrows are just pure streaks of grey. Yeah, so I've probably aged me 10 years and 3. That's
But the book's gorgeous.
It's a beautiful book, and the thing is, he's never happy with anything, Patrice, and he would have spent another 2 years on that book if we'd have let him. But in the end, it was like, look, it's beautiful. Everybody else thinks it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Just stop. Yeah, he'll spend forever on a piece, and it makes him a great artist. But we always have to try and get more out of him because players want to see more. And
absolutely,
he's done some great stuff, and he's already working on the art for Dropfleet as well. So he's doing that before I've written phase 2, and then he'll do art for phase 2. But we've done some of that already because he's working on lots of things at the same time. Phase 2 will be probably a slightly smaller book than phase 1, slightly quicker for us to produce. So
what can we expect to see in phase 2?
Phase 2, you're going to get obviously printed versions of all the units we've been releasing since phase 1.
Yeah.
There's going to be some new units that won't have been released yet that will be in there.
Okay.
Another round of special characters. Just 1 per race this time, but there'll be another 6. Environmental rules is a big one, so
that'd be fun.
Things like night fighting, high gravity, low gravity, extreme weather, beasts, all those kind of game elements that you can add. Especially for campaigns and stuff like that. Some of the planets have megafauna and megaflora and stuff, and some rules for those to really add flavour to a campaign. Some of them might work in tournaments as well. Things like night fighting might come into it, maybe. It's mechanics that are missing at the moment from Dropzone because it's a young system, and it's time that we get those in. Obviously, a big advancement of the storyline as well is a given in each book that happens.
Sure.
So you'll find out what's going on in all the different theatres that were introduced in phase 1.
Can we expect any kind of campaign structure?
There will be some of that. At this stage, I want to keep the campaign element quite loose and quite up to interpretation from players, because different clubs and people want different things from a campaign.
That's true.
So we are looking at the idea of doing a proper dedicated campaign book later, and when we do it, we're going to do it in extreme detail rather than kind of try and do a bit of a campaigny thing without, I'd like to do a proper job on it. It's probably the best way of putting it.
No, I think that's fair enough.
Yeah.
It's the Hawk way, isn't it? Being thorough.
Yeah, that's the one. Thorough and losing sleep in the process. That's usually how it goes.
Well, in regards to Dropzone, it's kind of slightly other peripheral points to it. The app.
Yep.
How's that come along?
The app's been in development for nearly a year now.
Wow.
That's been a long-term project because it's for iOS and Android, and it'll be like that from launch. The app's got a lot of interesting features in there. So you buy the app, and the app gets you all the core rules from all the books. Phase 1 core rule book, they're all in there, all searchable, properly digitized, so you can look for rules and flag them up and stuff like that. There'll be all the stats for everything in their most current form, so if we update anything, obviously it will automatically update on the app, which is useful.
Very useful.
You can add any units you want from there to your list. It doesn't have a full-on army builder in it because FFOR, we're still going to use that as our primary army builder because it's really good and it works really well. And the guy who's coded it has done such a good job and has been so good to us over the years, and we're not going to step on him with that. But the app is essentially, you add stuff to your list for quick reference during games. So if you need to look at stats, you know, you load an army that you've saved before, and it's just got the units that's in your army, so you're not flicking through the whole book to find units. There's also a Find a Gamer feature, which is really useful. So you put in, I play Dropzone and I'm willing to travel this far for a game, and then it will find other players nearby who also are willing to travel within your area, and you can PM them and you can arrange games. So that's really cool for people who might not know too many local players.
Yeah, that's an excellent feature.
Yeah, it's a new feature. Retailers can put in that they're a retailer and that they sell Dropzone, and then they know where their retailers are. So that's part of it. You can also get full-on digitized versions of the full books on there as well. They're in-app purchases, they're not required. You still get all the rules anyway, but buying the books gets you all the fluff and all the artwork and you know, everything. If you want to do that, you can get digital versions for iPads, and a lot of people like digital books these days. So the choice is there, and they're a lot cheaper if you already own the app. So once you've bought the app, they're a lot cheaper in the app.
Excellent. What kind of costs are we going to be looking at, do we think?
At the moment, the core app will be less than £10. We haven't decided exactly how much, but it's not going to be ruinous. It's cost us a lot to make this app, and you know, we have to charge a chunk of money for it, but it's not going to be disgusting.
I think that's fine. Well, thank you for your time.
No problem.
I'm very excited about next year and future.
Yeah, it's me too. It's nice to finally start showing people ships for DropFleet, and it's getting close to Kickstarter time now, which is exciting because we've been working on this for a long time. So, you know, it's good to see that, and it's been nice to get the hardback out at last as well, because that's been in the works for such a long time.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you for watching. Be sure to keep your eyes peeled on the Hawk page and our page as well, www.dzcblog.blogspot.com, for orbital bombardment news and news of the Kickstarter for DropFleet. Have a good evening. Goodbye.
Thank you. Cheers.